Number of COVID-19 cases in the United States has exceeded 2 million. And even though the numbers are continuing to climb, President Donald Trump is eager to get back to campaigning.
In many parts of the U.S., it's looking like business as usual as economies reopen. But the pandemic is far from over. Infections are rising in more than 20 states, and the number of people in hospitals has swelled in places like California and Texas, which was one of the first states to start easing restrictions. While New York has seen a drop in new cases, it remains the hardest hit. New Jersey, California, and Illinois are also bearing significant caseloads. A staggering share of virus deaths, an estimated 40%, are connected to nursing homes or assisted living centers. Experts say a lack of protective equipment and safety standards are to blame.
Marginalized would be an understatement. Forgotten is an understatement. I would say it's out of sight, out of mind.
While the pandemic has wreaked havoc on the American economy, the U.S. Federal Reserve noted that it has also worsened racial inequality.
Everyone deserves the opportunity to participate fully in our society and in our economy. These principles guide us in all we do, from monetary policy to our focus on diversity and inclusion in our workplace, and to our work to ensure fair access to credit across the country.
The pandemic has put a pause on what would normally be campaign season ahead of the November elections. But President Donald Trump is eager to get back on the trail.
And I think we're going to be starting our rallies. The first one we believe will be we're just starting to call up, will be in Oklahoma, in Tulsa, Oklahoma. A beautiful new venue, brand new, and they're looking forward to it. They've done a great job with COVID, as you know, in the state of Oklahoma. We're going to be coming into Florida, do a big one in Florida, big one in Texas. They're all going to be big.
Officials have yet to confirm the format and locations for his upcoming rallies, as many states are still warning against mass gatherings.
And Simon Marks joins us from Washington. Simon, so let's look at the COVID situation. An alarming increase in several states. Is it because the states have reopened too quickly, or are the rising cases a result of increased testing here?
Well, it depends on whom you ask. If you ask the White House, they'll tell you it's all because of increased testing. But public health officials all over the United States have been warning that the pace of America's reopening worried them and that they feared a second wave of infections, and certainly a second wave appears to be getting underway. If you look at Arizona, one of the states that the president is planning to visit to hold a rally in, it is projected that Arizona will have run out of hospital beds by the end of this month. So sharp has been the uptick in the number of reported COVID-19 cases in that state alone since it loosened its lockdown restrictions. And of course, with other parts of the country, here on the East Coast, for example, Maryland, Virginia, Washington, D.C., only just beginning to ease their restrictions. The concern is that those numbers of infections will only continue rising. In Texas, a rolling 7-day average of new infections keeps notching up new record numbers. Here, of course, on the East Coast, the scene of big protest gatherings just a few days ago. There are worries about the impact of that on COVID-19, and already some evidence that members of the National Guard who were on the streets here in Washington, D.C. are testing positive for COVID-19 in greater numbers than before. So it all adds up to a concerning situation as America passes that 2 million number of confirmed infections across the country.
And the president, as you mentioned, Simon, is eager to restart mass rallies. Do you expect then campaign season to kick into full gear despite all these rising numbers?
Well, it's not going to be a normal campaign season. That's absolutely clear. President Trump is very keen, as you heard there, to get back in front of his supporters. So he wants to hold these rallies in arenas that he wants to pack with people. There will have to be negotiations with each individual state and each individual arena to determine what the rules are going to be. But late last night, the president's desire for a big Republican convention later this year was completely undercut by the Republican Party's National Committee. President Trump, you know, had threatened to take the Republican convention away from North Carolina. He was looking for another possible venue where there weren't going to be public health restrictions and safe distancing guidelines imposed on him. The Republican National Committee, which controls the convention, voted last night to keep it in North Carolina, absolutely pared down. Only 300 delegates will be there. The president, they say, is welcome to make his speech at an off-site location. So it seems that we're going to see a really slimmed-down Republican convention with President Trump perhaps making an acceptance speech in Florida or Texas or somewhere where he may be allowed to fill an arena with his supporters. But, you know, that's not a real convention. And the campaign generally between now and November, I think, is going to be very muted for both parties.
Thank you very much for that. Simon Mark speaking to us from Washington.